Welcome inside episode 607 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. And on today's show, we're going to take a look at the Calgary Flames. We know Matthew Tkachuk is in all likelihood on the move soon, but are there other pieces that could be of interest to the Ottawa Senators?
And a lot of Sens pieces have moved around to other teams in the NHL, so we're going to make a Sens abroad lineup.
All that coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Friday, July 22nd. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to like the video by clicking the thumbs up, subscribing to the channel Locked On Senators, and leaving a comment. We want to leave a comment to start the show, and that is congratulations to the captain. Brady Tkachuk is now engaged to his beautiful girlfriend, Emma. So congratulations to the Tkachuks. Another monumental moment in the Sens offseason. One of them can't figure out what he wants to do next year, Pilsy. The other one, signing long-term deals left and right.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy when you look at Brady Tkachuk's life right now. Signed a long-term deal in the NHL, captain of an NHL, a Canadian team, now getting engaged. Like, man.
Dude, he turns 23 in September.
That isn't. I was not where he's at when I was 23. Let's just say that. But congrats.
Where were you when you were 23?
I think I was at George Brown College in Toronto, and I just missed you there we almost crossed paths. But I was not signing long-term deals romantically or financially. Let's just say that.
Yeah, 22. I was probably working the kitchen at Navara down on Murray Street in the market in Ottawa. Certainly was it. All the comments were great too. It's just like, that's an 8x8 ring if I've ever seen one.
No kidding. So Brady hands out a ring there. Hopefully he'll be handed a ring himself.
Yes.
With the Stanley Cup champion written on it or engraved on it.
But to do that, the Sens, we've discussed all week, they do need to add on defense. And that's where the Calgary Flames come in. But before we get to that, we'll touch on it a little bit later. It's too easy of a transition to go right over to his brother Matthew. What do you think's going on there? Because we got the odds from BetOnline.net, our trusted sports book. And I don't know if it's just a little bit of a sibling je ne sais quoi, but the Ottawa Senators have the fourth best odds to land Matthew Tkachuk, according to BetOnline.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. The Sens have made a brand on family and friends being brought into the culture. So when you have Brady Tkachuk, the captain and face of this franchise, and his brother is now available, it makes sense that Vegas is like, I can see that connection working there. I'm still on the side. I don't really see it working, especially now that Alex Debrincat and Claude Giroux have been brought in. Like, we're running out of space for top six forwards here.
Come on.
Like, good problems to have, but it's not that I wouldn't want Matthew Tkachuk on this team. It's what's the price to acquire him? How's he going to fit into the salary cap situation? If this was a non-salary cap situation, sure. Yeah, of course, bring him on, but it doesn't always work like that in a salary cap world here.
As if we're talking about a salary cap world. That in itself is awesome.
Yeah, on the Locked On Senators podcast. What a time.
Yeah, what a time to be alive. Here's our friends over at BetOnline. So the New Jersey Devils, the favorite at plus 400. However, they were the favorite for Johnny Gaudreau. Were they not?
Probably. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, oops. So we'll see if the New Jersey Devils...
Hey, the favorite doesn't always hit, as I know from the parlay game, Ross.
Although their GM is actually the Tkachuk's cousin, the Fitzgerald.
Yes, Fitzgerald. Yeah, that's... Oh, man.
Family.
It runs deeper here. The one that surprises me here, Ross,
where's Winnipeg? His mom's family's from Winnipeg. Where are the Jets on this list, Pilsy?
True. Snubbed. The one that surprises me is Buffalo. All the way up there.
I know.
I haven't heard a single person talk about Buffalo. That wasn't on the 7 teams reported by Haley Salvian and the Athletic. So that one is very surprising. I've got the Red Wings a little higher in my mind. The Red
I
Wings and
know.
Islanders higher in my mind.
I think the Red Wings would be the smart money based on plus 750 odds. You're looking at that. You're like, okay, they obviously have the pieces if they wanted to make this deal.
Yep.
Do they have a long-term top 6 right now? I don't know. I guess.
I mean, they're getting there with Larkin and Raymond and who did they just draft this year?
Oh,
Casper.
Casper.
Yeah. So they're building something. And if I'm Matthew Tkachuk and I'm looking for a team that I have confidence in the leadership, Stevie Y is a guy I can be like, yep, I trust that guy.
No doubt. But if you've heard Brady Tkachuk as well in interviews, it says Matthew's always been the one who wants to play at home more. So St. Louis definitely on the table here at plus.
But how does St. Louis make that work?
Oh, something's got to change there. They're right up against the cap, but
yeah,
hopefully they'd give it the old college effort instead of what Philly did and just said, "Nah, I know Johnny Gaudreau's wanted to play here forever, but you know what? We just can't make it work."
Yeah, we don't have a way that we can add a 114-point player. We're not interested.
No, we're okay. We've got JVR here limping around the ice. We're all good, man. We're all good in Philly. What a joke. That team's going to be fun to watch this year for all the wrong reasons. But hey, if you have to handicap it right now, if you're picking one of these teams, where is Matthew Tkachuk going to play his next game?
I think Detroit's a smart move, but I think he wants to go to a bigger market. I could see the Islanders making something work.
The Islanders. I don't even know if they have the assets to make the trade. That's the problem with the Islanders. Like, unless are you gonna start looking at Noah Dobson? Now he's unsigned right now, RFA, but at the same time, like the Islanders are just not going to announce anything until they feel like it.
Yeah, Lou Lamoriello is keeping that locked down. Actually, no, yeah, the Islanders is not going to happen. I'm sticking with my gut and my brain. I say Detroit.
Okay, cool. I'll go with St. Louis. Just I do think that he's going to have a fair bit of control, knowing that if he goes somewhere where he's not willing to sign an extension, they get him for 1 year.
Yeah, because then he's UFA.
Exactly. Then he's UFA, and then away he goes wherever he'd like. So I'm going to be really curious to see where this plays out. I hope, for the Senators' sake, he stays in the West.
Yes. Yeah.
Not only for the twice a year, but like that storyline, I can handle it twice a year. If they had to play each other 4 or 5 times a year, maybe even in the playoffs, I might go stir crazy. I might actually.
And the issue is the brothers are kind of sick of it themselves. And they're at a point where they're like we're going to battle hard, but we're not going to give you guys what you want with a big fight in center ice or anything like that. So
like the Wes McCauley bringing them both in for the face-off. Like that's awesome when one of them's still a rookie, but like we know it. We've seen it. Yeah, not to be a part. Aware. That's why they should just be on the same team, so that we don't have to have it as this big storyline every game. They just go out there, put on the bandana and the brass knuckles, basically turn themselves into the Bash
the
Brothers.
Hanson brothers?
Or no, the Bash Brothers from Mighty Ducks. Those two guys just cruising around, just terrorizing Trinidad and Tobago and Iceland and all the other random countries they used in that movie. But when Matthew Tkachuk, when the needle drops on that one, then all of the Calgary Flames roster has to be on notice. There's a couple guys who I circled here, Pilsy, on the Flames that I want to get into. But first, do you want to tell us another word about our friends over at BetOnline who gave us those great odds for Matthew Tkachuk?
Yeah, Ross, and that's why BetOnline is so great. That it's not just your simple over-unders, money line, puck line. They got fun stuff like that. Like, where's Matthew Tkachuk going to land? Where's the next fired coach going to land? They've got the odds, the totals, the player performance, props, everything is at betonline.net. It's your number one spot for all your sports betting needs, and it's the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network for a good reason. It remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just hockey, guys. They got basketball, golf, baseball, UFC, boxing, whatever you want, they got it. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts.
All right, Pilsy. So we should have our last scheduling note of the week, just in case you missed one of the other shows, although there's lots of great content to go back to from Tyler Boucher joining us on Monday. Then on Thursday, we had Stephen Halliday, fourth rounder from this past NHL draft. So lots of great development camp conversations surrounding there. And then on Tuesday, we asked, are the Senators a playoff team as they're constructed today? And then the follow-up from that was, how do you improve the defense? So lots of great content all week here on Locked On Senators, but the offseason is in to the, what would you call it? It's here. It's not, we're not just like easing into it anymore.
It's the dog days of summer. It's here. Yeah.
It's the dog days of summer. So that doesn't mean the content gets any worse, but it does mean we are going to go down to 3 shows a week starting next Monday. And I'm confident teasing the guest. Is it all right if I tease the guest here, Pilsy?
Do it at your own peril.
I will at my own peril. Carson Latimer is going to join us on Monday. And if you need a little pick me up over the weekend, listen to part 1 when we had him on during the season. This guy shows up wearing his draft hat. He's like, I'm breaking it in for the first time. Dad's a beer league beauty. He's a beauty himself. And he was obviously at Sens Dev Camp too. So we'll continue the conversation surrounding Senators Development Camp. And we're going to get a bunch more guys of the 2022 NHL draft class on later on this summer. So we aren't going anywhere, but it will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday until probably the middle of September. And Sens Central Citizens are back coming up on Wednesday. So it's going to be a great August. And at least we got this excitement, Pilsy, to lead us through the rest of the summer with how many great offseason moves Pierre Dorion has made so far.
This offseason is much better than last year's. Oh my God.
And we just bury the fact that Daniel Alfredsson's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and LeBreton Flats is moving in the right direction. Like,
yes.
those are arguably bigger and more important than anything that's been done to the on-ice roster.
Yeah. Okay, quick power rankings. 1, 2, 3. Most important moves this summer.
Okay.
Go.
Are you going to get just full open?
Yeah.
LeBreton Flats has to be number 1. Like, that will change this organization forever.
Agreed. Yep.
That's number 1. Daniel Alfredsson, number 2. I mean, finally having the greatest Ottawa center of all time recognized and justified by the public. And even Leafs fans were like, yeah, this guy is good enough to be in the Hall. It's a shame he's not. So, like,
not
that just goes
Leafs
to show
fans.
you. No, not all. But, like, to have...
How many in this photo?
Oh, man, at least one. At least one. Or maybe 11 of them in that photo. I'll go with that. How about that? And third, it's really close, but I'm going to Debrincat because Claude Giroux is huge, but it seemed like that was going to happen. I was confident it was going to happen, and it makes sense. Whereas Debrincat, that shocked the NHL. Like, that shocked us. It shocked me, at least, because the Ottawa Senators, not only did they acquire a young 40-plus goal scorer under team control, but they didn't give up any important pieces, no players, no prospects, and a pick that they didn't really need in a weaker draft class. And it was a trade that consensus online, everyone's like, what a steal for the Ottawa Senators. So that's my power ranking of this offseason. LeBreton Flats, Alfie, Debrincat.
Damn, I really wanted you to go a different direction so that I could argue you, but I got the same 1, 2, 3. So I don't know. Rick's probably punching his steering wheel right now, rattled that I'm not bringing up. Well, I guess you brought up Claude Giroux, but the fact that is a big moment, though. Like, having a legit UFA, even as it stands today. And I know there's a couple big fish still out on the pond in Klingberg and Kadri, but as it stands today, that's the second highest AAV that was given out so far this free agent period, behind the 114-point man in Johnny Gaudreau. So it certainly does symbolize a changing of the monetary situation in Ottawa, at least in an immediate sense. I know they moved money to bring money in, and they still potentially could move money out, but it is good to see that the free agents, well, at least one who might be, connected to Ottawa. Still, though, he had many options. It's not like Claude Giroux was struggling to decide, oh, nobody wants me, I guess I'll go home. This guy's still a bona fide stud. So, that to say, you add up front, great. Are they done adding? Don't know. But the Calgary Flames are just beginning a teardown. You know that since 2001, and I think Jaromir Jagr was the last guy, in the cap era, because I think in 2001, Jagr got traded after 100-point season. I think there's 2,700-point seasons, and never has a player changed teams after a 100-point season.
Wow.
The
And now
Calgary
they got two of them. Oh my
Calgary
God.
Flames are about to lose two.
The Calgary Flames are going to have to, or maybe they're not going to have to, they're not going to try, but they've now lost 219 points from last season.
Wait,
when you
no,
combine
no,
Johnny
no,
Gaudreau
no.
and Matthew Tkachuk.
How many more, though, did they lose with Eric Branson?
Yeah, I mean...
17.
Yeah.
That's actually impressive for him. 17. That's
so 236, 46? I don't know. We're not math guys here.
No.
But over 200 points are gone from the Calgary Flames. So, it's tough because they had such a good team and everything looked great. And you got Markstrom is finally playing up to his contract. You bring in Tyler Tofolli. Andrew Mangiapane breaks out as a legit stud. Like, man, but you have no choice now. That division is too tough to lose over 200 points and think you can still compete. You can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a much better spot than, say, San Jose with all their long-term contracts. Outside of Blake Coleman, they don't have anybody signed. Sorry, Blake Coleman and Rasmus Andersson.
Yeah, I was gonna say Anderson.
They don't have anyone signed beyond 3 years.
Yeah, and those aren't bad.
Beyond
contracts.
2 years. They're beyond 2 years.
Well, Markstrom as well.
Right. I was just looking forwards defense. But that means, and especially for teams who are looking to add, they could probably work something out here. And there's a few guys who really interest me. Out of everyone else on this roster, we'll leave Matthew Tkachuk aside because I think it is a pipe dream at this point, although it is a fun one. I don't think he's coming to Ottawa. Who could be options? If you're Pierre Dorion, you're like, oh, I sense a fire out in Alberta, wildfire, and it's spreading. Where can I go to take advantage of this situation?
Well, I mean, we're really only looking at defense for the Ottawa Senators, right? Like
Not
that,
me.
Okay. That is the main concern. So if you're asking me, and this has kind of been hot in the streets recently, shout out Williams Martian, but Christopher Tanev seems like a guy that makes a lot of sense. Right shot defenseman, 2 years left at $4.5 million. Sure, he's 32, so he's a little bit older, but he's the type of guy where I was looking at Calgary's stats. I've got him here, and he led their shorthanded time on ice. He had 242 minutes time on ice. Ross, we talked about it a couple episodes ago. What happens when Nikita Zaitsev leaves? How they're going to have to fill in all that penalty killing time. Not that he was an effective penalty killer, but nonetheless, he was out there. Someone else is going to have to replace those minutes, right? So I think Tanev would be a great upgrade. It's someone that you're not locked into. He's 32, so you probably wouldn't want him for more than 2 years. And to see the way he battled, that was an insane injury he had, and he still battled to try to be there for his team. I think he's a guy that would fit into this culture and would buy into the system.
Yeah, I love Chris Tanev. I think that he would be a perfect guy. Now, are you worried at all that he's coming off pretty major surgery that he played through in the postseason right now or last year?
It's definitely a concern, but I mean, he's got an off season to recover. You don't need him right away. Like I mentioned, I'm kind of the mind, let's see what this decor can do first and then adjust accordingly, whether it's good enough or not good enough. So if he comes in November, December recovering, I'm not sure what his recovery time is, to be honest, but if it's something like that, it's not the end of the world. At least it shouldn't be, because I don't anticipate the Ottawa Senators will have another tire fire of a start for the third year in a row.
He should be back between October and December. So he'll be missing training camp as well. I mean, it's tough to say at this age, like how he's going to bounce back. But the Chris Tanev that he's been the last number of years, certainly the type of player you'd want to add at $4.5 million against the cap too. That's unbelievable. Same as in salary, but he does have that 10-team no trade. But I don't think that that's as apparent as it once was, because especially if the Sens get off to a hot start, you're looking at a situation where the market's going to be going crazy. Both literally and figuratively. Down near Blue Cactus, those $10 triples are going to be buzzing. But you look at at just the situation there, I believe that a player would waive to come to Ottawa. That being
And I mean,
said,
Matthew Tkachuk could vouch for what Brady's doing in Ottawa,
yeah,
so I
of
think
course,
he could give Chris Tanev a little bit of
a little sales pitch.
yeah, exactly.
As long as he doesn't come over to the Atlantic, then he's going to be trying to hustle them to get over there. Obviously,
Fair.
Rasmus Andersson is another guy who's young, who would cost more as an asset to give up, but I'm not a huge fan of his, and I don't know why. If it's just because he stole the puck from Gus's first win, or
Right?
what.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, I don't know about Rasmus Andersson.
I like him, but he's not the type of player we're looking for here because he's someone we're looking for a partner for Shabbat, right?
Right.
And he's someone that he probably wants the puck on his stick a lot of the time too,
Right.
whereas Shabbat needs that as well. So I think we're looking for more of a two-way, more defensive type guy to help stabilize Shabbat's pair.
Pilsy,
Mm-hmm.
I know we're looking at defense, but you can never have enough secondary scoring. And I know there's some uncertainty around a couple players up front with the Ottawa Senators, but when you look back to the 2020 offseason, they signed Evgeny Dadonov. You know who their main target was, who went to Montreal? It's
Yep.
Tyler Toffoli.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would be an awesome guy to try to call Calgary against. He has no trade protection.
Yep.
He's got 2 years left on his contract. He's making 5.1 this year, but only 3.5 next year in real money. And he's a guy who, in a pinch, if there's an injury, whatever it is, he could be a guy who steps up and plays in your top six and just gives you pretty much what Connor Brown gave you,
Yeah,
but at
honestly.
a cost certainty over the next couple of years. 49 points last year, Pilsy, and he only played in 72 games. So I think he would be an awesome guy. Even if the conversation's around Tanev, it's like, hey, can we throw in an extra pick or an extra prospect and get this guy too? Because he's a game breaker and he scores big goals at big times. I know his playoff wasn't great, only 2 goals, 5 points in 12 games, -6, but he was a stud in the last few years. 28 goals in the COVID shortened season in 52 games. So he's a guy who I'd circle on Calgary as well as a secondary offensive piece.
Yeah, I'm a big Tyler Tofolli fan as well. When Calgary acquired him, I put a future on them to win the cup because I was like, that's a great move. However,
Yeah.
I'll pose this question to you. He was
Right.
acquired for, I'm just pulling up the trade here. It was a first round pick, a 5th round, a prospect, Emil Heineman. I'm not familiar with him. And Tyler.
I think he was a second round pick.
So would you be willing to pay right around that price? It would be a 1st round pick would be involved.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No, because it depends.
For
The
depth
2023
scoring?
and that trade was made throughout the season, and it wasn't so they knew that they were going to be a playoff team at that point. So
I think
now,
it was top 10 protected still.
okay, but
Yeah.
it ended up being 26th overall. So and Calgary was in a situation they knew that they were going to finish probably second behind Colorado in their division. So it took out any of that risk that it's going to be a lottery pick because it was top 10 protected. But even if it's in 10 to 15, that obviously has way more value than into the 20s. So maybe if you make the trade mid-season and you know that you're a playoff team, then that first can get a little more attractive. But I almost think Calgary's in the point now where, like, instead of a first, like, take 2 seconds so you get like more swings at it, right? In terms of gaining assets at this point in their rebuild. They didn't have their first last year. Their prospect pool's meh at best. Like Coronado's nice, but beyond that,
Sorry, decent.
Yeah. So I probably wait on the first rounder in a Tofolli trade. Like if it's Matthew Tkachuk, you're throwing a first but with Tofolli in the situation they're in, I think you can probably wait.
The only issue I have with that is the forward group doesn't need to be fine-tuned. And so you're using assets to strengthen a strength, whereas there's a weakness on D.
I would certainly give up a first round pick plus for Tofolli and Tanev.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Because I think that's ideal. You do the old Commodore and Corey Stillman, those two together come in Ottawa, right? You get a forward and a defenseman, and at that point you're telling the league, like, not only are we here to compete, like we're loading up. Like those are 2 bona fide like studs in the NHL. So I think that even for the messaging, just like you gave up this first. Like, spend your first on messaging and get it out there that the team's ready to compete. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's the
probably
cost of advertising, eh? Brand
yeah,
advertising, a
yeah,
first round pick.
or you can just call Locked On Senators and we can go to
That's
battle
true.
for you like we do with all of our great advertisers. If you are interested in reaching a very intense daily audience of the Locked On Senators podcast, you can give us an email through our YouTube page. There's a contact email right there, and we'd love to work with you to get your name out there to locals in Ottawa. All right, Pilsy. So I think we've circled Chris Tanev for sure. And then I've got Tyler Tofolli circled as well as another guy who could make sense for the Ottawa Senators. Other players that we could see go in this fire sale that I'm just calling it right now. It just seems inevitable. And where the Calgary Flames are, you don't want to be in that mushy middle. So just tear it down. Try to build through this 2023 draft. Just seems spectacular. So why not? I know it's tough to rip the Band-Aid off. We've been there. Not even from the second round, from the third round. And then all of a sudden it just falls apart. So any Flames fans who need to give us a call on the hotline, we can talk you through it. It will be okay. Just fall in love with some prospects. I love that thread that Martian put up. Says, Sens fans, you've been through it. Like, tell us how you got through it. Share it for the Flames fans out there. I said start a podcast, Pilsy.
Yeah, that's a good way to air out your grievances. That's for sure. If we're looking at Calgary, there's another guy I would be interested in. I'm not sure how much it works, but
Luch?
no, not Luch.
Come on.
I'm a big Zadorov fan. Like, that guy is punishing on the ice. But then it brings me back to yesterday's conversation where the question I kept posing to you: how much better is he than Hamnick? I'm certain he is better, but are we putting Zadorov on a top pair with Shabbat? No. So that's where I'd be out there.
Right.
I think the one piece that people aren't talking about for this Flames fire sale, Elias Lindholm is going to get a king's ransom in return because he's still signed for 2 years at, I think it's $4.5 million.
Yeah, it is.
4.85 for 2 years. He's 27. He just put up 82 points last season, 40 goals and 42 assists. Like, he is one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion. And to have him under control for 2 years like that, like the Tampa Bay Lightning would give up 10 first-round picks for him. So that's one to keep an eye on for big moves because there's no point in them keeping him now.
Also of note, Milan Lucic, who I just said, yes, he's not the player he once was when he was just an absolute menace on the ice. But his signing bonus has already been paid. So he has a $5.25 million cap hit. Pilsy, he's owed $1 million on his deal. That's it.
Wow. Okay.
That makes him a little bit of an intrigue. Not for Ottawa. They've already got the Austin Watsons of the world. But certainly, like, even in his old age, and certainly doesn't play with any pace at all. You wouldn't have him on any special teams, but he is still, like, what would you say, top 3 alpha in the NHL?
Yeah.
It's got to be Reeves, Chara, and Lucic.
Wilson, you got to throw Wilson in there. When Wilson's healthy and on his game,
yeah,
he's in control.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, definitely there's still some value to be had with Lucic.
Yeah, 10 goals last year. Good for him. 21 points in 82 games. Certainly not making. I didn't realize he's 4 games away from 1,100 games, Bill. That's impressive.
And for the way he plays the game, that's a hard game he's playing. So it's impressive he's made it this far.
Yeah, only 1 assist in 12 playoff games this year, though. No talks. All right, that's enough out of Milan Lucic. But the Calgary Flames are a very interesting team to watch, and we will continue to watch them as the seems like step sibling of the Ottawa Senators over the last few years. Obviously, with the Canuck connection, the Tkachuk connection, it makes those two Canuck teams a little bit attached at the hip. So we will follow that closely, but as the Senators continue on the rise, it means less talented players disperse all over. After the break, we're going to wrap up the week with a look at the Sens abroad and who ended up where as the carousel of free agency continued. That's coming up next, right here on Locked On Senators. All right, Pilsy, it is Friday, third segment. Feeling good about that conversation regarding the Calgary Flames. I hope Pierre Dorion has been on the phone with Brad Treliving because there are a couple pieces you'd love to pluck off that roster and bring them over to the nation's capital. But, you add pieces, you got to lose pieces. And we didn't have to go too far to check in on the Sens abroad throughout the movement this offseason. There's just a couple spots, and they're both in the division.
And just like familiar spots, Toronto and Florida, like that. That's just classic spots to land. And it's crazy how much Kyle Dubas and the Florida Panthers just were stoked to pick up all the extra parts for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, I mean, at least Florida was a couple two-way deals. Was Gaudette? Gaudette might have been a two-way deal as well. So then both of them did two out of three were on two-way deals with so Gaudette and Victor Mete for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then for Florida, Chris Tierney and Michael Del Zotto are both making two-way, and then each of them still has one-way contract as well.
Did Balsers get a one-way with Florida?
Yep, for sure.
What a boy.
Your boy. So we'll pull up this absolutely horrific graphic, a little early morning recording today. So bare bones, but it certainly does the part. These are all former Senators who were on the move this season. And as you can tell, if your top line is Colin White with Zach Sanford and Connor Brown, you're probably not too worried about facing this team. This is not the 2020 bubble. #Sens Abroad. We're rebuilding the Sens Abroad Pills.
Yes. Yeah. Now the Sens Abroad is in rebuild mode. A couple fun names here. Again, I'm happy for Colin White. I think Florida's a great opportunity for him, and he's going to have a chance to try to redefine what he can do without being weighted by a over expensive contract. So Colin White, we're still cheering for Whitey.
100% we are. So it'll be great to see Colin White down in Florida. And then Nemesnikov on the other coast of Florida, going back to the team that drafted him. I think this is a very smart signing for Tampa.
Agreed.
He was kind of, lost in Detroit, not getting a whole lot of notoriety. But I loved what he brought when he was in Ottawa. He was a shorthanded king. Didn't he score like five shorties when he was here?
Yeah. The Nemesnikov was a great fit when he was in Ottawa.
Yeah, and then I threw Logan Shaw in there too. Just to mention, he's played in like every Canadian market ever, so he'll probably be with the Toronto Marlies. And then good on Curtis Lazar. You got a bit of term on that deal too, hey?
3 year, I think $1 million a year. So, attaboy, and he's a great fourth liner now. Again, Curtis Lazar, that's another guy. Didn't work out in Ottawa, unfortunately. High expectations weren't able to be met, but now that he's kind of redefined himself as a good bottom six guy, I think he's got some value, and that's a nice little tidy piece of business by the Canucks.
I don't know if we can say the same about Columbus, although, as we mentioned, Erik Branson offensively had his best year of his career. I don't know if that will continue to Columbus, but good on him. 4x4 for Erik Branson with the Columbus Blue Jackets. The other defenseman who signed elsewhere, Josh Brown to Arizona, and then a couple two-way deals in Victor Mete to Toronto and Christian Wolanin to Vancouver. I like that. I like that fit for him.
Yeah, definitely. It's hey, he's still trying to prove he's got something left to show here.
You recognize this goalie tandem at all, or what?
Matt Murray in Toronto and Philip Gustafsson in Minnesota. Look, I had high hopes for Matt Murray. There's the famous quote from me. I have faith in Matt Murray. Didn't work out, clearly, and I'm glad the Sens moved on from him. It was time, and good luck. Yeah, there it is. If you're watching on YouTube, I did say that once upon a time. Good luck in Toronto. And then Gustafsson, I don't think it was going to work just because the timing never properly panned out, and he had a rough season last year. So I think it's mutually beneficial that both of these sides, Gustafsson and the Sens, decided, okay, we're going to part ways here.
Enough's enough, right? You have to know when it's time to go your separate ways. And that's kind of the morale of this episode is the Calgary Flames. What direction are they going to go, and how can the Ottawa Senators take advantage of this interesting spot that I don't think anybody in the Flames organization would have foreseen themselves in when they were dominant in that first round. If it wasn't for Jake Ottinger, they win that first round in 4 games. He was absolutely spectacular in that series. So what's next? I know their coach is a win now guy in Daryl Sutter. He's not going to sit through a rebuild. No. So let's see what happened. The all-time quote was when Sutter was like, yeah, I was just watching a lot of hockey and I didn't like the way they were playing. So I called him and I said,
I'll fix this. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how he's going to fix a team it's going to lose not 1, but 2 100-point players from last season. So leave us a comment. Let us know who you want to see from the Calgary Flames make the trip east to the nation's capital. Pillsy, any final thoughts heading into the weekend?
I'm going to be heading into a week of vacation. I'm not going to be around. So everyone, show Ross the same kindness you guys showed me when I was doing my solo shows. And I'm stoked to get out east.
Yeah, man, you're going to have a fantastic time. Lots
Oh,
of
yeah.
great recommendations coming your way. All I got for San Francisco is don't rent a car. Our boy Patrick says because it's the crime's so high. So shout out San Francisco. But no, you're going to have an awesome time out east. And I'm glad I wasn't the only one who said the Stillwell Beer Garden because that came up in the comments as well. So yeah, you'll have a great time there. Hopefully come back with a little twang, a little. I seen that. Yeah, I seen that when we were gone. Hopefully you get to mix that in, have some lobster, have some seafood, have a good time out there. But yes, the show will go on, and Pillsy will be a part of the Carson Latimer interview on Monday, our Sens Central Citizen on Wednesday. It'll be like he never left. And then I'll talk about it next week. We're going to not do a show on the August Monday long weekend. And then I'm gone. Pillsy will be back for those two shows. We got something planned for you as well. And then we'll be back together and roll through August because I think all Sens fans can agree we just want it to be training camp time.
Let's go.
Plenty of intrigue surrounding it, but we will be back on Monday. I will be back on Monday for a fantastic conversation with Lats. But for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.